Okay, so the topic I have today is called Future Resilience Through Digitalization. I'll introduce a little bit about my organization first, right? NCS and kind of who owns us, and then talk about some of our experiences within the family of the companies that we have. How many of you here have heard about NCS? Okay, that's obviously I got to go and beat up my marketing people a little bit because half haven't heard. But NCS is basically a 40-year-old company. We are about $2 billion plus Singapore dollars in revenue, and with about 12,000 over people. Right, we are the largest what we would call systems integrator or an IT services company in Southeast Asia. Originally started in Singapore as the National Computer Board, and the government decided to computerize in the year 1981. And we are 100% owned by Singtel, which I hope everyone has heard about, or else my marketing people are really in trouble. Singtel, in its original form in the government, was started in the year 1879. So talk about resilience, I think that's one company that has survived. So we are 100% owned by Singtel. The group that I represent is a group called Telco Plus, and it is a new strategic business unit that was set up about a year ago. So I'm kind of like in NCS for about a year now. And the whole idea was for us as a digital services company to focus on the telco business, right? To do work with telcos, given that we are actually owned by a telco. So we can co-create within our telco, within a safe haven, and then bring it to other telcos across the region. So we'll just to wake up everyone on an afternoon, sleepy afternoon. I've got two numbers here, 33 and 14. I've got 2 years here, 1965, and looking forward a few years forward, the year 2026. But I won't tell you what's the title of this slide, right? Any guesses for what it is? 4D. Sorry? 4D. Okay, lucky 4D strike for this weekend. Okay, no, that's not it. Any other guesses? Just one more. Okay, I don't expect anyone to know, but I'll give you the answer. So it's actually the average tenure of a company on the Fortune 500, right? Obviously, everyone here would know what the Fortune 500 is. In the year 1965, a company remained on the Fortune 500 for 33 years. That's a very long time, right? Once you get to the Fortune 500, you're stable. You pretty much can kind of hang around your assets and everything else, and you'll be okay. But with some recent forecasts, right, into the year 2026, the forecast is that an average company on the Fortune 500 will only be on the Fortune 500 list for only 14 years. Okay, so this has a couple of lessons for us, right? Number one, don't rest on your laurels. Everyone's got to innovate and be relevant to the market, right? Secondly, no matter how big you've grown, how long you've been around, actually doesn't mean much anymore in this current digital age that we're in. It's all about, coming to my next slide, it's not about the size and the assets, but it's all about innovation and adaptability, right? Who can innovate constantly, who can adapt continuously, are the companies that are going to survive, the companies that are going to thrive. So it challenges a lot of, no disrespect to traditional companies, because Singtel is a very traditional company, but we're all challenged to do that. Yeah? John Cotter is a famous Harvard professor, and I thought I had a line from him that I thought was pretty interesting, right? So it says, no vision issue today is bigger than the question of efficiency versus some combination of innovation and customer service. So if we look at resilience through digitalization, digitalization speaks to a lot of these things, right? Because digitalization helps you to improve efficiency within your company or for your clients. Digitalization also is a conduit to bring innovation to bear and to improve customer satisfaction through better customer service, right? Omni-channel and all of those things. So a couple of interesting, I think, pointers for us. Given that I represent the telco industry, and I'm not a telco veteran, by the way, like when when I was asked to take on this role, I said, number one, I'm not a telco guy, right? So I don't know why you guys are asking me, but the person who convinced me to join NCS to grow the telco business said, actually, we don't want a telco guy. We want someone who comes from a non-telco industry because you bring fresh ideas, right? But now, after a year, when I look at what I've learned in the telco industry, in the early years, right? We go back to the 1965, 2026. In the telco industry, what is that? What does those 2 years mean? In 1965, it was all about reliability, right? If you have a phone line that doesn't cut off, right? And eventually later when you have a mobile, line that is clear, reliability was very important. But now as you look forward, reliability is table stakes. Everyone has reliability. Any telco has reliability. It's a given, right? The moment it goes down for 2 seconds, you complain. Then what do you differentiate yourselves on? Because or else it cannot be about just lowering your price, right? And in the telco industry, it's becoming all about experiences, right? And I'll give you a few examples, right, of how telcos have got into digital experiences to be relevant in the industry. If you look at who owns a Singtel, right? $15 billion plus Singapore company, started in 1879, more than 100 years old. Singtel has continued to innovate itself over the years. And a couple of years ago, they decided, and they were very clear, they needed to get into new digital modes, right? And payments was becoming, something that was getting very common and very wanted in the industry. And so they came out with Singtel Dash, right? So for those of you who don't know, it's an app that allows you to pay money for various products that you buy. Like in our cafeteria, when I buy food, I don't pay. I just flash up, I scan the QR code on my Singtel Dash app, and it gets paid, right? So that was kind of the early foray Singtel took into getting into a non-telco business. They got into financial services, even before the word fintech was really, kind of common. And they got into payments, an area that they were very unfamiliar with, right? But they had to do it, right? And recently, in about a month or two, you will see a new digital bank in Singapore launch called GXS. It's a joint venture between Singtel and Grab, and NCS is doing a lot of that implementation work. Now Singtel is becoming a bank, right? Very different from being a telco, right? And not just a traditional bank, right? Like a lot of UOBs and OCBCs and all that in Singapore, for those who are familiar with the market here. But a digital bank, and a digital bank has no branches. A digital bank's customers are actually people who don't get entertained by traditional banks, SMEs, people who need money fast. And just to give an example, and this is something that we are looking at, but not to be quoted perhaps outside this forum. When you have something like Dash, and you have something like you also own a bank, then what do? Very interesting, right? From the payment app, you can now potentially offer loans and microloans through your Singtel Dash. Rather than just making payment, giving money, now you can receive money. And start thinking about how far that is digressing away from a traditional telco, which is providing you a mobile plan, right? Or 5G or whatever. So that's how telcos are thinking. Another very good example that I have is Optus. Singtel, as you know, owns Optus 100%, second biggest telco in Australia. And we've had quite an energizing new CEO called Kelly, who joined a couple of years ago. And they've done something that actually speaks to social good as well. So Optus has got and again, in the spirit of digitalization and reinventing a business, right? When you're trying to gain market share, you can't say I've got a more reliable mobile line, right? I mean, or a fiber line. That's table stakes, like I said. You got to start thinking about society. Got to start thinking about how, as a digital and technology company, which a telco is becoming, how you can make an impact on society. And one service that Optus launched was called Optus Pause. Anyone heard of Optus Pause? No? Okay. Optus Pause, I thought was a pretty brilliant idea. In your average home, right, you can buy a fiber line from one company. You can buy, like in Singapore, for example, you can get it from StarHub. Two of your kids have, a Singtel line. Maybe you have a M1 line. Your wife has some other line, right? Circles Life. And as a telco, you want to gain market share, right? And you start with a family. And it goes back to experiences. You got to get into experiences, right? In Australia, if you buy your fiber line, your mobile lines, everything from Optus, you suddenly have a very magical capability through Optus Pause. We all know what happens with our kids, right? During dinner time, what is the thing we keep telling our kids? Put your phone down, right? and what do? They don't. So interesting. It's causing social discord, right? I mean, it's stealing valuable family time away. So what can technology then do about this? So what Optus has done is they said, if you buy my fiber from me and all your family members buy their mobile plans from me, on your Optus app, you can press a button called Pause. And suddenly your internet is cut off on your fiber, internet is cut off on the mobile, so your kids can't switch from mobile to Wi-Fi, because the Wi-Fi will also not work. Right? And that's one way, right? The second way is, a lot of us get more data than we need. And sometimes we don't need it, but there are people who really need that, right? People who are underprivileged. So Optus also introduced a capability to donate away this data to people who don't need it. But all of this can only be enabled through technology, right? And the technology doesn't necessarily just have to be about business growth, though it has helped Optus rebrand themselves, gain market share with the new CEO. But at the same time, it's actually solving some societal needs as well through technology and digitalization. So I hope those examples give you, kind of open up your minds, right, about the possibilities, whatever business you're in or your clients are in, of how you can think out of the box, not necessarily just think about profits, but about societal good, and the two can actually be interlinked. Yeah. So just in concluding, I sometimes when we think about, because I consult for clients a lot, right, in my work as well, and I spent 10 years in Accenture and quite a long consulting career. If we look at where history has come, right? I think we all had the analog days, right? Whether it's the rotary phones, right? If we talk about telcos, everything was manual, right? And when introduced some sort of mechanization, industrialization with the Industrial Revolution, we basically brought about mechanical assistance. We basically bring about machines that can help humans, right, in a way. Where we are now is we're moving into the digital revolution. Digitalization, I guess, is the word of my topic, right? And now we're thinking about things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all of that stuff, right, to basically make decisions on behalf of us. We are not quite there. I mean, my own guess is that we are at least about 3 to 5 years away from full digitalization, right, or full digital. Until then, you got to have something called a bridge. You got to bridge between what technology is capable of and how people consume it. For example, the metaverse, right? You talk about AR, VR. It hasn't reached a level where it is seamless and non-intrusive. Now it's very intrusive, right? So you got to bridge how you're going to make money during that period. And then fast forward now 20, 30 years later, now you got artificial intelligence, right? Where you basically still need humans to create the frameworks for AI to learn, right? And AI models take quite a while to train now. You'll reach a level of digital consciousness where, I don't want to scare everyone, right? But Elon Musk obviously has got a very, very serious concern on this. It's basically something called digital consciousness, where machines could be potentially smarter than humans. And it makes us rethink about then what are our roles, right? Do we assist the machines, right? Or what is jobs going to be, what our business is going to be. So I just want to kind of leave everyone with this little bit of a vision and a little bit of a crystal ball to get you thinking and pondering. With that, I'll just conclude my part. Thank you.